say keep on rocking.
Hi, this is Mike Peace, and today we're talking with Rick Derringer of the McCoys.
Hey, Rick. How you doing?
I'm doing great.
Okay, good.
How about you?
Yeah, it's getting closer to Christmas, and got to catch up on my shopping, but we were talking about Hang On Sloopy, and that appears to have been the first one that you guys did that got you on the trail of success. Did you start off with some other song, or was that the first one?
No, Hang On Sloopy was the first successful recording we did. We actually were from Ohio and started out playing as kids early in my high school days. And very quickly, we were successful enough to start opening for other groups that came through town in Dayton, Ohio. And one of those groups in late 1963 was a group called the Coronados, and they had a huge hit. They were the singing group from Texas, and we backed them up. They were so impressed with the group that they said, well, in 64, they're coming up in a few months, we have a engagement to play at the Texas Pavilion of the 1964 New York World's Fair. And we'd like you guys to come to New York and play at the Texas Pavilion. So actually in 1964, the band the McCoys went to New York City and we played at the Texas Pavilion. And meanwhile, the Coronados had set up a recording session for us, and we recorded a song for them in New York City called Yesterday, Today, and Tomorrow. And they were going to try to get that marketed on a real label, but it didn't really happen. So we were back in Ohio, and in the summer of 1965, a similar concert happened. Only this time we backed up and opened for a group called the Strangeloves.
Okay.
And the Strangeloves pretended to be Australian sheep herders with hit records, but in actuality, they were the first producers that produced hits for the record company called Bang Records. First hit was called My Boyfriend's Back, a huge hit.
Wow, okay.
The Angels. And it was so big that they then went ahead and recorded their song, I Want Candy, as the Strangeloves, and they were given the exercise to see if they could go out and find a group that looked like the Beatles that could record a song called My Girl Sloopy. My Girl Sloopy in 1964 was a #1 hit by the Vibrations. It was on the black charts. So they knew that it was a big, big hit. So they figured, well, if we can find a group that looks like the Beatles, since the Beatles have come into fashion so quickly, they could record My Girl Sloopy, and it could be just as successful on the white charts.
Okay.
Well, the last date of the gig, their tour, happened to be the show in Ohio with us, and we happened to have bought that day Beatles suits, not knowing anything about this stuff. We all were young enough to be involved and loved the Beatles music, so we also had Beatle haircuts. And being big fans of black music, the McCoys knew the song already. We knew it from the black charts, from My Girl Sloopy being #1. So we already knew the song, loved the song. So when they asked us if we wanted to play that song as part of their set, we, of course, agreed and were very excited about it. And not knowing this whole story, afterwards they invited us into their dressing room and right away told us that, you know, we were supposed to find a band to do Hang On Sloopy, at that time called My Girl Sloopy, and we like you guys. Would you like to go back to New York City tomorrow and record that song with us? I looked at my dad, and my dad said, wow, Rick, our vacation actually starts tomorrow. So we did that. We followed them back in our little car, pulling our U-Haul trailer with our equipment in it to New York City.
Are you saying that your dad it actually was a vacation that you guys were taking? It was just, wow.
Yeah.
What a coincidence.
The Lord works. When he sets things up, he makes the itinerary work perfectly.
Yeah.
But we went back to New York City the next day, and within a few days, we had recorded the music to Hang On Sloopy. We went out into the park every day and practiced singing it for about a week, and then went back into another recording studio and sang it. Everybody jumped up in the control room and yelled #1, and within a few weeks, it really was #1. So, you know, it's an amazing story, but it's a true one.
Wow, that's an overnight success again. It only happens in America.
That's right.
Yeah, wow, that is amazing how things just fall in place like that. But, so then after the McCoys hit with the Hang on Sloopy, then you came out with, let's see, what was it?
Fever.
Fever, yeah, okay.
Yeah, Fever was a big hit too. But we also had a couple others. We had one called Come On, Let's Go, which was a big hit by Richie Valens previously. And our hit sold more than Richie Valens' original version. And our hit of Fever sold more than the big famous Peggy Lee version. So the McCoys had a considerable success. But we happened to come out. I explained to you that we really liked black music and considered ourselves a pretty good band. But our success was during a time period when bands like the Ohio Express and things like that were also becoming successful. And we became pigeonholed as what they called in those days bubblegum music. And very discouraging to us. We didn't want to be bubblegum music. We wanted to be legitimate music. And so throughout, even though we had had quite a bit of success, we were searching for a way to rise above the term bubblegum musicians. And that's when we met Johnny Winter. And coincidentally, Johnny Winter and I were both managed by the same manager, a guy named Steve Paul. And Johnny Winter was looking for a way to get more into rock and roll, play a little less of just the blues, and we were looking for ways to legitimize ourselves. So we decided to team up, and the team worked so well that it satisfied both our goals. We became much more accepted musically, and Johnny Winter gained a lot of success in rock, which is what he wanted.
Johnny Winter was he was doing more blues and kind of soul music, slide guitar and that kind of thing.
Yeah, he was considered straight blues initially, and but he really wanted to get a little more into mainstream, and that's where that's where our collaboration really worked super.
At what time did you guys come out with the Rock and Roll Hoochie Coo?
Well, it was on the first album. The first album was called Johnny Winter and, which stood for Johnny Winter and the McCoys. But since the McCoys were characterized as a bubblegum group, they didn't really want to go there, so we just dropped the McCoys part and made it Johnny Winter and. So the first album, Johnny Winter and, is considered by a lot of the fans a real milestone for both our careers, Johnny and myself. And it included not only a bunch of, kind of covers and stuff that Johnny wrote, but also some songs that I wrote, one of which was Rock and Roll Hoochie Coo. But we didn't stop there. We then went ahead and replayed it on all our live performances, and then when Johnny's second album came out, it was a live album, Johnny Winter and Live. We did it again at that time, and then when Edgar Winter, White Trash, started playing live, they did it as well. And on the Roadwork album by Edgar Winter's White Trash, he recorded it again. So it really had a built-in track record of success, so that when I did my first album, All American Boy, I knew that that was one of the songs that I was for sure going to do. And that version, recorded in 1973, is the one that we hear on the radio. It's the one that won a BMI award, Special Citation of Achievement, in recognition of the fact that it was played on the radio well over 1 million times. Wow,
okay. You had another Grammy monster, Frankenstein and Free Ride.
Yeah.
That was with...
with Edgar, right after I stopped playing with Johnny Winter, I started producing Edgar Winter's group. The first one was White Trash album, and then very quickly after that, I started playing live with Edgar Winter and that band. I loved that band. Great music. And we recorded an album called Roadwork, like I said. Roadwork included Rock and Roll Hoochie Coo again. So Edgar had enough success so that he did a similar kind of thing. We were kind of a soul band, and Edgar decided at that time that he wanted to go more into mainstream. So he started his group just simply called the Edgar Winter Group, which included a guy called Dan Hartman. And Dan Hartman turned out to be a great, great songwriter and a performer in his own right. He wrote the song Free Ride. So Edgar took, on the first album, we recorded both those songs, Free Ride and Frankenstein. Frankenstein originally was just a kind of show-off song that Edgar had whenever Johnny Winter would play. Before Edgar had come onto the scene, Johnny would bring Edgar out as part of the show, and Edgar wanted something that really would show off his multi-musical talent. He played many musical instruments. So he created the song at that time called the Double Drum Solo, and it basically was just a song that would allow him to come out and play the organ, Hammond organ, play his saxophone, and then also play the drums, and a drum solo that he had specifically arranged and written that would coordinate with the other drummer of the band so that they would both be playing a combination drum solo simultaneously. And that song was huge live. So when it came time to do his album as the Edgar Winter Group, he knew that that was one of the songs he wanted to include. The synthesizer had just come into prominence, and Edgar had taken all those keyboard parts that he previously had played on the organ and worked them into the latest version of the keyboard, which was the synthesizer. And at that time, we changed the name, included it on the album as Frankenstein, but the record company didn't really understand. They said, man, this doesn't sound like the rest of the album at all, so they encouraged us not to put it on the album. Well, we just knew that we loved the song, simply. We had no idea that it was going to be a huge hit, but we knew we loved the song. So the engineer and myself decided that, you know, we don't care what you guys at the record company think, we're definitely going to include this song on the record, which we did. The record company didn't think that it would be a big success. They couldn't figure it out, couldn't hear it, and so they released Free Ride as the first song, a song by Dan Hartman, composition. So Free Ride didn't do so well because radio stations had already discovered Frankenstein, and they were playing it way more than the single Free Ride. So they pretty much really demanded that Frankenstein be released as a single, which really kind of proves the old adage that, you know, record companies can't really pay, because people think you can just pay to make a hit.
Sure.
They really can't pay to make a hit, but the bottom line is they can't stop a real hit either.
Right.
So,
you know, the musicians have so much passion for the music. They really know what has the right feel to display them.
Sometimes a hit, everybody knows that they just like the song.
Right.
You know, and that's the bottom line. You can't predict hits.
No.
But when everybody likes a song, that's what creates a hit. So instincts, sometimes, if you look around and, you know, everybody's in agreement, they all like this song. Every place you play this song, everybody likes it. That's a pretty good indication.
That's a good bet, yeah.
It's going to be a hit, yeah.
I haven't seen him perform at all, and I would really like to. It sounds like he puts on a real good show.
Yeah. He and I both still do concerts together pretty regularly. If you go to rickderringer.com and check my schedule, you can see where we're performing, and we usually make note of when those concerts include both Edgar or if they include Johnny. We have one coming up on December 23rd, I believe, in Michigan, and that will include both bands, both the Edgar Winter Group and Johnny Winter and my full band, and then at the end of the show, all three of us get together and play for about a half an hour together as well.
That would be dynamite. I noticed too that you have worked with a lot of other artists. I see Alice Cooper, Todd Rundgren, Steely Dan, even Barbra Streisand.
Barbra Streisand,
Kiss. Yeah. Cyndi Lauper. I played all the guitars on a huge hit called Total Eclipse of the Heart. That ended up being a platinum album by Bonnie Tyler.
I play all the guitars on that one as well. Air Supply, stuff that people wouldn't think that I necessarily would be part of, I play on. And like you said, Kiss, I'm actually the guitar you hear on some of the songs by Kiss.
Well, I could see Air Supply, but Barbra Streisand?
Yeah, Barbra Streisand. Well, at the time, the producer, Jim Steinman, was very, very successful with Meatloaf, and then he had gone ahead and produced the Total Eclipse of the Heart album by Bonnie Tyler, which became a platinum album. It was his work with Meatloaf was platinum level successful. So people were coming to him at that point, and Barbra Streisand actually approached him to do several songs, and I was one of the guys that he pulled from to create those big hits. He liked my guitar playing, so he asked me to come in and play on two records that we did for Barbra Streisand. One was called Left in the Dark Again, and I can't remember the name of the other one, but successful songs.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like anything you're putting your guitar on does real well. So.
Well, I can say that the productions I did with Edgar Winter and Johnny Winter, any song I did not do with them, any album I did not do with them was not gold or platinum, and all the albums that they have that are gold and platinum are the ones that I did do with them.
That's a good distinction, boy.
Yeah, but the real, I actually had most success as a producer, producing, of all people, Weird Al Yankovic. Pretty much discovered Weird Al, and I produced his first 5 albums.
Yay, Dr. Demento, huh?
Yeah, all of his biggest hits. That's right. He was working in Westwood One because he was a big fan of Dr. Demento. So he was working in the mail room at Westwood One just to be near Dr. Demento. And then Doctor discovered him and allowed him to come out and play a song now and then on the radio show. And he came to us deciding that he wanted to do a single.
Wasn't that first song he did, My Sharona, wasn't that supposedly was recorded in a men's room or something with the accordion?
Well, he actually used the accordion on Another One Rides the Bus, he called it, to use as the bass drum. To do that when he did it live on Dr. Demento's show. He'd just do it with the barest, minimal amount of instruments, the accordion himself, and hanging on the accordion case as the bass drum. When we went in the studio and did it, of course, we simulated the sound of the original hit, which was how really became successful. His records sounded like the originals, but they had the funny lyrics, and then, of course, the videos that were hilarious.
Yeah.
So we won 2 Grammys with Weird Al. Not only were they gold and platinum records, but we also had the very good critical success. We won for the best comedy album one year, and then a year or 2 later, won for the best video as well. So I actually have 2 Grammys for Weird Al's work.
Yeah, I actually did a couple things with for Dr. Demento too that actually even got played. So
that's correct.
Yeah. So
yeah, Dr. Demento's radio show was really a trend. Does he still do it? I don't know if he still does.
I've heard from him like maybe 2 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago. So I think he's still doing it, but I don't think he's got quite as big a syndication as he had back in the.
Yeah, it was had a lot of impact, and once again created music that went on to have a life of its own, as in Weird Al.
Yeah, I was playing a little club in Chicago, and it was on a Monday night, and a whole bunch of people came in, and I couldn't figure out why, and they said, we heard you on Dr. Demento. So, I mean, that show has got a tremendous following, and I knew he came from out there in California, but I had no idea that everybody listens to this show.
Yeah, so. Well, Al was such a big fan that as soon as he had the opportunity to move from the Midwest, where he was from, he moved to California, and like I said, he got a job in the mailroom at Westwood One just because he had heard that that's where the show was created, and he wanted to be near Dr. Demento.
Wow. Yeah. I Am a Real American. That's the song that you did with Hulk Hogan, right?
Real American, yeah. That was one that was on the first wrestling album that I produced for the World Wrestling Federation. It was also a big hit. It had a song called Land of a Thousand Dancers that the wrestlers we put them all on, doing little vignettes throughout the whole song, and that became a very, very successful video on MTV. And on the album was also my song called Real American, which Hulk adopted as his theme song, and he's used it ever since for the last 20-odd years. Every time he goes into the ring, you hear I Am a Real American. Many times on a TV show in the background, they'll play I'm a Real American. And it's gained a huge audience through that venue alone. It's become my biggest downloaded song currently on the internet, and because of that, it was so long ago that the original was recorded, 20-some years, so I decided recently to do a brand new version. We changed the lyrics slightly, made them, we think, a little more appropriate yet, even fulfill the ideal of the song, and we've done a brand new version which is available at rickderringer.com on a new CD called Rockin' American.
Rockin' American, okay.
Yeah.
You mentioned that your songs are available for downloads. What site is it they're on?
Most of the sites, iTunes, Amazon, just about everybody that allows download songs, we have stuff available.
Just go look for...
in the process of releasing a bunch of the new stuff, including Rockin' American. I think it's only available at, what is it called, Baby...
CD Baby, maybe?
CD Baby right now.
Yeah, okay.
I think that's the only place you can get it so far. But I'm just in the process, we're going to be doing that in the next couple weeks, of releasing that and a couple Christian records that we have that have not been released yet through that internet venue, and maybe even our Christmas album. You should check that one out, too, at rickderringer.com. Our family recorded a real family-friendly Christmas album called Winter Wonderland, and we didn't really want it to be your typical all jingle bells and I saw Mama kiss Santa under the Christmas tree, that kind of stuff. We wanted it to be a little more
original,
in time with the season. I mean, in the end, we still believe that Christmas is about the birth of Jesus, and not necessarily just about Santa Claus.
Right.
So we didn't want it to be a solely Christian record, but we wanted it to be a little more reflective and not quite so frivolous.
I like that whole concept because my family and I did that over 15 years of putting together an album. We kind of yearly did one song for Christmas and then compiled it into one big Christmas album. So
great.
And they're pretty much all originals, except I did a copy of Little Drummer Boy, Peace on Earth, that David Bowie and Bing Crosby did.
Yeah.
Do you remember that one?
Yes, I do.
Everybody really likes that one. So, and I was just, the first time I heard it, I thought, man, that's a hit,
Well, ours includes a similar kind of thing. We have some originals on there and some of the standards that people have grown to love throughout time. So, once again, Winter Wonderland, and you can get that one at rickderringer.com.
Okay, now these are released or they're not released? The Christmas
They're all
songs.
released through our own label,
okay.
Sound Ground Records, and those are, most of them are only available, though, at rickderringer.com or as internet downloads. But some of them haven't yet been released to the internet. That's why I'm saying that's currently my new project, is getting them out there on the internet. Yeah,
you mentioned you have Christian songs that aren't released yet?
We have a family Christian album as well called Aiming for Heaven, which has been out for a couple years, and it happens to be our biggest seller on rickderringer.com. But we also have another that we're working on right now that it includes vocals, duets, as you might consider them, with other great Christian artists as well. Phil Keaggy's on there playing guitar with me. John Schlitt, the lead singer with Petra, is on there singing a song or two. Mark Farner, the ex-lead singer and songwriter for Grand Funk Railroad, who's had a big Christian success, several Christian successes over the years. He's on there too with me, and we're currently in negotiations with another Christian artist as well. So that one we can't wait to get out there. It'll include, like I say, some other things that people don't expect.
That should be interesting.
Well, I'm an independent artist, and I'm always looking for big-time exposure, so I'm going to explore that possibility.
Well, good. Okay. You and I are both independent artists.
Yeah.
I mean, I was signed with a couple different records, but now we're independent, and we're able to do what we want to do. So that kind of helps.
Great. I feel good about it. It really allows you. Over the past few years, we've been just doing music we want to do, not led by the trends of the music business necessarily, or prompted by record company executives. We really are allowed to do pretty much what we want to do. And that's why an album, a CD like Rockin' American is so important to me, because it really does reflect my heart and soul, and not necessarily that of some record company executive.
I think that's real important for all your fans to know, too, that you're not being influenced by the big guys, and what they get is really you. And I think that's so important, because everything, it gets so commercialized, and the record companies just kind of control everything, which...
Yeah, so true.
But it's amazing that you are able to become successful in the different genres here. First attempt, to do something, and bang, it goes. So, yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, well, all credit goes to the Lord for that kind of stuff. He gave me my ability, and he deserves all the credit.
I've seen some quotes from you online, and one of your quotes is, "If my musical tastes are continuing to grow, and I'm not really too interested in the music that my kids listen to, then I assume the audience is doing the same thing." What is that based on?
Oh, well, that just means you have to be true to yourself. We're all human beings. And sometimes as human beings, we want to things we hear in the media, or people that we see, or people in positions of authority as knowing more than us. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of just basic human nature. In reality, we're all equal here on this earth. We're all human beings, and just because someone is in a position of authority or famous through the media doesn't have any bearing on whether or not they know more than you do as a person. Mm-hmm. So my theory is simply what you like as a person is as valid as what any record company executive, for instance, would tell you that is the successful stuff. If you listen to your heart as a musician and just really do the music that you love, you can't hardly go wrong. It just means simply that other like-minded humans will love it too.
I agree. A lot of times the record companies are trying to base everything on money and
focus groups.
And they've seen it work before, particular song, so they try and duplicate exactly all the steps that happen to make it a success, and it never seems to work.
Yeah, and also the contrary is true. If somebody dislikes a song of yours, strongly, then that usually means it had enough of an impact, or enough of a presence, identifying presence, that some other human being could have a strong positive attraction to it.
Yeah.
So that means when you hear a review where somebody just takes you apart and says, "Man, this thing sucks," and gives you a million reasons why, you don't have to feel bad about that review.
Absolutely.
All that shows simply is somebody felt strongly. Your music had enough presence, enough sound, enough ability to stand for something that somebody recognized that they really disliked it. Well, that also means that same presence, that same identifying stance, could also give another person that strong likability of it. Yeah, if you shoot for something wherever you go, "Man, I want everybody to love this," well, you're not necessarily going to get anybody to love it.
Right.
Because not everybody loves everything all the time, ever.
Yeah.
Something that one person loves, another person's going to hate. And that is the way it works. In order to have that strong some person love, you got to have the ability to accept the strong some person hate, because that's just the nature of life.
One of the things I wanted to talk about, too, is your guitars. I understand you have designed a guitar for Warrior guitars?
Yeah. Over the years, I've been playing guitar for over 50 years now. And in the course of that time, I've actually had the opportunity to play everything that people think is great. You know, all the famous great guitars, the legendary instruments that people love. I've had an opportunity to play them. And then over the years, I actually worked with other companies, too, and created guitars, designed the guitars for them over the years. So recently, about 5 years ago, I linked up with a company called Warrior Guitars that makes handmade instruments and really the best electric guitars out there. And we decided that we would take all that knowledge that I've accumulated over the years, put it to some good use, and create a new guitar, another Rick Derringer model. So that guitar now is a reality, and Warrior allows me to go ahead and experiment. And as I find new things that really work on the instrument, we can incorporate that in the instrument in an ongoing fashion. So it doesn't mean that just because 5 years ago we created a guitar, that's the end result.
Right.
We keep incorporating new innovations in the instrument as time goes on, and I'm currently waiting for a new one that has some new changes in it that we expect will make it even better.
Cool. I actually went to the Warrior Guitars page and looked up a Rick Derringer guitar. It's got this beautiful blue finish, 3 pickups. Middle pickup is a little different than the 2 outside pickups. What exactly is that? It almost looks like it might be an acoustic kind of pickup. What is that middle one?
No, it really is. The outside are P90s, which are big old single coil pickups with a lot of output, and the inside pickup is a traditional single coil like you might find in a Stratocaster.
Okay.
And basically that's just to get that middle pickup a little bit out of your way. I could have put 3 P90s in there, but then they're a little intrusive. They're bigger, so your pick might be hitting it. But people don't seem to complain about that with Stratocasters, so we thought we'd try that in the middle position, and sure enough, it works pretty good. But moving that pickup around is one of the current things I'm experimenting with. So the new one will have some more changes yet that aren't even reflected in those guitars that you saw online.
I've done some guitar building myself, and I think I mentioned to you before, I hand wound the pickups, and because what I wanted was a stereo output. And so I took 3 magnets. It's kind of like a Stratocaster pickup, you know, just one element, but I had 3 magnets in there to pick up 3 strings. Then I would put another coil right next to it with 3 other magnets to pick up the other 3 strings. So then I also had set up a switch that would switch it to mono or stereo, left or right, so you could switch the different elements left or right.
That's amazing. You know, there's a Gibson guitar out right now which has a digital pickup on it, and it allows you actually to have 6 separate outputs, 1 for each string. If you wanted to actually go that far, you could actually have 6, ultimate stereo with the 6 amps, and each string having its own amp.
That would be wild. And then set each one of the strings to sound like different instruments.
Yeah, you could do that.
Yeah, wow. That does sound interesting. With mine, I played the guitar through the PA system, and it really showed the separation. And I was working as a single at that time and wanted to get the most sound on that stage. So this was my way of coming up with it, and nobody had made something like this. So that was my second guitar that I made, and I loved working with it. But anyway, I think we've pretty well covered everything here.
Run the gamut.
Yeah.
I think we have.
Yeah.
Pretty much done.
We've been talking with Rick Derringer. I really enjoyed talking with you. You came up with some really interesting thoughts, and your whole life seems like it has been pretty interesting. So.
I've had a great life, and I continue to enjoy a great life. The Lord has blessed me in that way. I continue playing these live concerts and making music and doing all kinds of things, and I'm really happy about it. We just want to encourage people one more time to go to rickderringer.com, at least check out my tour schedule. We'd like to see everybody come out and see us play when we play live, and I encourage everybody to look up that tour schedule at rickderringer.com and come out and see us.
I really want to thank you for talking with us. I hope we can keep in touch.
Okay, man.
Okay.
Take care.
Thanks, Rick.